Should we really be spending money on HS2? Shouldn't it be scrapped?
It's a very big chunk of change, £100 billion. I wouldn't quibble with anybody who sort of said, could that money be better spent? I think that's the first point. We've got to be realistic about this. That is a big, big investment, but it's also a massive investment in Britain's future. That's what HS2 is about. We've got a railway system in this country which is just not fit for purpose. And I don't mean just slow trains. We've got some of the slowest trains in the Western world, but we don't have the capacity. I mean, the last new north-south railway line in this country was built in Victorian times. Now, you go back 100 years, the population of this country was about 32 million people. Today, it's 67 million people. And we don't have the connectivity to be able to move around our key cities and key parts of the country in the way that we should have, in the way that is perfectly common in pretty much any other major European country. And if you live in the north, and I'm dialing in here from Sheffield, getting to London becomes an absolute nightmare. It's terrible from Manchester, it's terrible from Liverpool, it's terrible from Leeds, and it's terrible from Sheffield. And these are our big principal cities, and it takes ages, even from Birmingham. So HS2 is an issue whose time has come. We've spent a long number of years simply not investing enough in our key infrastructure. The gentleman you had on before talking about energy, exactly the same. We've got water shortages because we don't build enough reservoirs, and we've got rail problems because we don't invest in rail. What HS2 will do is increase the capacity that we urgently need.
Isn't the point, really, of people who argue against HS2, they'd use something you pretty much just said there, which is it's going to make getting to London easier. Now, if the underlying basis for HS2 is to increase productivity up in the north more so than it does in London, down in London, it's a bit counterintuitive, isn't it? If people are just going to say, oh, my goodness, it's so much easier for me to get to London, I'm just going to move down there.
I mean, that can work, of course, the other way. I mean, that's a fair enough point, but I think it's more likely, and the modelling suggests it's more likely to work the other way. So, for example, Crewe in Cheshire will become 52 minutes away from central London, which throws up all kinds of opportunities. And this is good for London. This is good for the southeast. It takes a lot of the heat out of the housing market and out of the overheating of the London economy as well. So it spreads wealth and opportunity around the country. And as you say, is a massive boost to economic development and growth and productivity and the wealth of the nation. We can't just run, HS2 is fundamentally about economic development. It's about making sure that we're properly connected as one country, as one unit, and we can move around and move goods around very, very quickly, which will drive a lot of economic growth. And we're all talking about the urgency of economic growth at the moment. I mean, that's a really kind of non-party political point. And of course, HS2 itself is non-party political. It was commissioned in the final stages of the last Labour government by Lord Andrew Adonis, who's the Transport Secretary, a bit of a visionary on all this, I have to say. But it's been driven forwards by 3 Conservative prime ministers, and I suspect it will carry on being driven forwards by whoever takes over from Boris Johnson. And of course, you look at figures like Andy Street, the Conservative mayor of the West Midlands, big advocates, of course, for HS2, because there is already a renaissance taking place in Birmingham. You walk around the centre of Birmingham, you can sense the investment and the opportunity. Land prices have been going up. HSBC has moved its national headquarters there. So already that change is starting to happen. HS2's already created 25,000 high-quality, high-skill, high-wage jobs.
Kevin, thank you.
Apprentices. We've got 170 kilometres of track that's already been built.